Well, one of my favorite senators, Tim Scott, thanks for coming back by and seeing me.
God bless you. Thanks for having us over here. What a wonderful office. This is you are a person well known for your art. And so when you put something on the wall, it actually means something.
It does. And you know what I try to do, and what's so remarkable, just when you walk the hallways here, where we serve, you think about those who have walked before us.
Yes.
You think about the shoulders that we stand upon. And there were some remarkable men and women who have made their case for this country and made it better. And there's one that's going to have their 150th anniversary, December 12th, from 1870, when he was sworn into Congress. And that person happens to be Joseph Rainey, the first black American who was a Republican and served in Congress. But you know what I find unique is that he comes from your state, not just your state, but your congressional district.
Absolutely. Well,
tell us a little bit about it.
Joseph Rainey he's an American hero, certainly a South Carolina change maker. He was born into slavery. Frankly, his father was an entrepreneur. He was a barber. I wish I needed one, but God knows I don't need one. But he became a barber as well. But he left the country and moved offshore for a little while so that he could learn a trade, get really good at it, become fairly wealthy. Then after the war ended, he moved back to America and ran for Congress in 1870 and became the first black person in our nation elected to Congress. Right from the first congressional district, 1870, 140 years later, the grace of God and the voters of the first district, I became the Congress member in 2010. So knowing the history of Joseph Rainey, knowing the path that he blazed for so many of us to come behind, whether you're black or white, if you enjoy history, if you love the story of the guy that starts at the bottom and comes to the top, Joseph Rainey is your guy.
I mean, think about it. He was born into slavery. He gets pulled into the Confederacy.
Yes.
They capture him to try to make him serve.
And he exits.
He escapes, goes to Bermuda, learns the trade of being a barber. He learns the free market.
Right.
Comes back in, running a business, being successful. He joins the Republican Party. And he becomes the party chair because he believes in policy. Then he runs for Congress. To be the very first, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he was breaking a lot of barriers
over and over again. One of the things you think about our party, if you think about the future of our party, especially in 1870, you know it was founded upon this notion of liberty and freedom and the American way. What is more American than entrepreneurship? What is more American than leaning in and having an equity position in this country? He understood that instinctively. His father, I'm sure, put that in him. But the bottom line is that over time, he rose to the level of leadership in our party, in our nation, but it all started with a story of struggle and perseverance, discipline, overcoming the odds. And he made that story in my home state, in my hometown, which is amazing. He worked, you and I have been in the Mills House downtown Charleston.
Yeah.
He was there.
Well, that's amazing.
So much of what we think of as history in Charleston is history that he experienced, history that he lived,
right there,
history that is important to us now because of who he was. And
you know, he wasn't a quiet man when he was here, and he wasn't afraid. So one of the first acts that he proposed is called the Enforcement Act.
Yes.
That we watched the rise, as he did, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And he believed in the liberty and the protection of all.
Absolutely.
And it was signed into law. It was one of the first things that he campaigned upon and actually passed.
And we're still doing it. The beauty of what he started then is what we're working on now, which is this notion of making sure that we are becoming a more perfect union. And that means we have to protect the rights of all Americans. Our party has always stood there. And the good news is if you look into the future where our party is going, we're going back to the future.
That's so true. You know, in my office, you talk about my paintings.
Yes.
I have Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
I have Joseph Rainey.
Yes.
And what's so unique is what Abraham Lincoln said. We're conceived in liberty and dedicate the proposition that all are created equal. Yeah. And you talk about that, a more perfect union. Because something else that he did, here he comes into Congress, the first black American to serve. And at the time and place of where we were in America, he could not stay in the same hotels.
Yep.
He was not treated the same way. And there were 15 other black Americans serving in Congress, and he got up and he spoke about that. Here we are making law. My vote's the same as yours, but why am I treated
My rights
different?
or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
But you've experienced this even today at some times. I remember a story you told me about your pen.
Yeah, just walking into one of the office buildings here in the Capitol footprint and literally being stopped. And the guy said, the officer said, "The pen I know, but who are you?" As if to suggest that I've somehow stolen someone's pen because my skin is black. And so the fight that he had then, in a very different way, is the fight that we have now. And the Republican Party has led on that fight. And one of the things that we have to do as a nation is to recognize the progress that's been made. He couldn't stay in the same hotel, could not eat in the same restaurant. I have the good fortune of serving with amazing people like yourself. We go to dinner together, we get to movies together, we get to hang out together with very few impediments to that process because he endured the challenges and the worst of life so often so that the rest of us could experience the other side of the coin, the other side of the story.
You know what happens in history sometimes? People forget it.
Yeah.
This Republican Party needs to embrace the history and should be proud of the history of what we're founded on and created upon.
Yes.
It wasn't until 60 years later that a black American serve as a Democrat.
Right.
I mean, when you think of Joseph Rainey, what he decided to serve, he leaves the country because he's getting put into slavery and fighting a war on the wrong side that he doesn't want to be a part of. But he comes back. He could have stayed away.
Yes.
But he knew this was the best place. And he knew this could be a more perfect union.
Absolutely.
And that's why he served, and that's why he fought the way he did. And he's really led a history of why we should honor. That's why when I hang his portrait here, I hang it inside our conference room.
Strategically located so that people can ask questions.
Everyone will look at that picture
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Who is that man? Why do you have him hanging there?" Because I want to tell the story.
Yes. And we have to tell the story.
We do.
Because we do. I mean, people, they are destined to repeat history that they forget.
Yeah.
It's not that it hasn't happened yet. It just hasn't happened to you yet. And one of the things that we get to do as members of Congress is to tell the story of America and to tell it from a conservative perspective. Because if you think about the first African American serving in Congress, Joseph Rainey, you think about the fact that brothers, other members of our party who've served in different parts of the state, of the country. As a matter of fact, the last time I checked, your freshman class represents the greatest diversity that a party has seen in a very long time. 100%.
Yeah.
Veterans, women, and minorities.
Who defeated Democrats.
Yeah.
You know what's unique, though, is it's the foundation the party's created upon, that all are equal. And how do we make this union stronger and better? I can't thank you enough for being here. What a great place to celebrate. But as we teach history, and as we say 150 years ago on December 12th, that Joseph Rainey became the first African American to serve in Congress, but I stand next to the man who made history too. The first African American elected to the House and to the Senate, and they both come from the same district and same state.
It's amazing. Well, it's glorious, actually. I think of the blessing that God has bestowed on both of us to serve, but I think of the rich history coming out of South Carolina. It is amazing to be a part of that history, that legacy, that all things are possible.
They really are. You know, you had an amazing speech this summer.
Thank you.
About your own family.
Yes.
And I love your family dearly. From your nephew, Ben, who's now a doctor.
Right, yep.
To your mother, who has raised some amazing sons.
Your biggest fan.
I'm her biggest fan.
Yeah.
But you talk of your grandfather.
Yes.
Tell a little of that story, too.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that many of us get to stand on the shoulders of giants. My grandfather, born in 1921 in segregated South Carolina, who had to cross the street if a white person was coming. I had to look down, never looked at someone in the eyes of a different color. To live long enough to see your grandson not only elected to Congress, but live long enough to see your grandson become a United States Senator and then elected by the state that he had to cross the street in. Amazing. That's why from cotton, he picked cotton as a kid, to Congress in one lifetime. It's the story of America. It's the story of South Carolina.
And you know what? It's our responsibility to expand that for the next lifetime, too.
And the rest of my life will be dedicated to doing so.
Well, thank you, Senator, for joining us.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.